G'day, fans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Talking Stuff. I'm here with my lad, and we're just going to be yapping on about science fictions for the next hour. From my point of view, the world is good. The Olympics are finished. I'm all over and done with the Olympic Games. I can now pay attention to what my lad next to me is saying. So, lad next to me, say something that's really exciting.
This show is absolutely stuffed full of stuff. It's actually a really good one. We've got a whole lot of different things to talk about, and I think it's going to really make the hour go fast.
Well, I'll tell you what is going to be very, very exciting is good old Karan has joined us, right? Now, the last time I caught up with Karan, and I said I'm going to chuck him under the bus for this one, right? He actually said he slept through the last couple of episodes that we had. He said, "Oh, I love your show. It's fantastic. Oh, but I slept through the last two." And I said, "Well, good to see you finally awake and joining us, old son, because you've been absolutely useless for the past fortnight." What do you reckon about that, Mr. Aaron? Where's the commitment, I ask?
Sounds like the 90s, sleeping with the fans.
It does indeed. Well, anyway, Karan is finally awake. He's actually joining us, and that's absolutely spectacular. We've got a very, very chock full of very exciting show tonight. Chock full of exciting stuff, Mr. Aaron. Are you psyched? Are you pumped? Are you ready to talk some stuff or what?
Well, I'm not going to sleep through the episode, that's for sure.
Exactly right. Very, very good. So with that in mind, I'm not just going to muck around. I'm just going to press this button. Let's get into it. All right, so we've actually got a bit of a Star Wars thing going on here for the first few moments of our particular show. And of course, the big news that came out is that Disney had their D23 get together last weekend or whatever it was. Very exciting. They were just announcing shit everywhere. There's stuff going on all over the place. And the one thing that they brought up was the name of the new movie, Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, dude, quite honestly, can you think of a more crap title than that?
Attack of the Clones? I don't know.
Oh, dude.
I do wonder. It really did put I thought, a full stop on the end of the last series where they did that sort of shrink down, and that's the end of their story. So does this start up with the thing opening up again in a wipe kind of thing? I don't know where they're going to go with it, really.
See, I don't understand why they needed to put the Grogu bit in. They could have just called it The Mandalorian and left it at that. I mean, it makes no sense to a large degree. At least they didn't say The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. That would have just been like annoying as all hell. I don't understand. You can have a TV series, like a lot of TV series are called a certain name. When they're called a feature, when the feature film version is coming out, they still have the same name. So I don't know why you have to have the Grogu bit at the bottom. I mean, that's just dumb.
It could have been even worse. It could have been The Mandalorian and Space Baby Yoda.
It could. Exactly right. Good old PJ's joining us. Haven't seen PJ for Yonkensburg. Still waiting for a Rogue Squadron. I reckon you'll be waiting for a little bit longer. But Mandalorian and Grogu, I don't know what the logic is behind that. I don't know if they're going to change the title later on. Of course, most people out in the big wide world are going to go, what the freaking hell is a Grogu? And of course, little kids are going to be going, well, I just want to see Baby Yoda. So it's, I don't know. I don't know where the logic was. It does not roll off the tongue. They should have just kept it as the Mandalorian.
And what is it? It's MAG is the initials, I guess. Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, MAG. Yeah, there we go. So I think they've done it intentionally so people go, oh my God, clearly Grogu was going to be in the movie, which would have been a no-brainer anyway. So maybe it's done from a marketing perspective, but it's just a bit of
I do think you and I have seen from the shop that one of the most marketed and successful things to do with Star Wars in the last 5 years was Grogu. Remember the first Christmas? Oh, I need Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda. I've got to get the plush. I've got to get the pop.
Yeah.
You heard that quite a lot. So I'm banking they're putting all their money on the one item that seems to have sold for them.
Well, as we've noticed, as Greg said, yeah, got to mention the cash cow because that's exactly what Grogu is. And even Christy has said that add the cash cow's name to excite the kids. That's exactly what I think too, even though it does not roll off the tongue. I like this one, Mags and yeah, right. See, even look, good old cash cow. See, I think we sort of like gave it that moniker. So I think that's what it's all about. Why don't they just change it and say Grogu and the Mandalorian? So yeah, leave it that because clearly
it must have. It must have been a rumor that it doesn't pan out. I thought Pedro Pascal was done with the Mandalorian, and going forward, they were going to go along with Katie Sackhoff. And that was going to spin into the movie. So maybe he is back for the movie. I'm not sure about that. He must be because yeah.
No, I'm going to catch off there. There is a way around this. You could logically say, why don't they call it Din Djarin and Grogu? But the fact that they've called it the Mandalorian means that they can have Bo-Katan or him or both.
Yeah.
So they don't. Yeah, it's everybody's assuming it's him, even though his image is in the poster. So if you see it up there, right? But that doesn't mean it has to be about him. So that's the get out of jail free card. And I said that ages ago. That's why you can't call Din Djarin Mando or the Mandalorian, because there's all these other ones now. So, but anyway, we'll wait and see with great interest how that goes. Grogu the movie, actually, that's makes a lot of sense. If they did that, it would probably sell better than what this freaking title is. But there you go. Now, guess what, fans? This is a bit of a gag. I haven't even told Aaron about this one yet. So for those who don't know, speaking with Star Wars, over in Adelaide, Anthony Daniels is turning up at Supernova, right? Yeah, which is very, very cool. Now, the funny thing is, because as we know, Aaron runs his own store. And he said all these people are coming into the shop buying C-3PO products because clearly they want to go to Adelaide and get these things signed off, right? And I said to Aaron, I said, dude, you've got to make the most of the opportunity from a sales point of view. You got to, jack up the prices. So this is what he come up with. Out they go. Is that right?
Well, it's a catchphrase from another show, but that's poor value. It went up from it went from the Greg King's bargain bin to behind a glass cabinet.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually laughed my head off when he sent me through that picture. Imagine someone saying, "Oh, don't worry about the $2." I said, "Just put some extra zeros on the price tag, dude. You'd be selling out there. They'll be selling millions of the damn thing." So I thought that was really, really funny.
Why make it 200 when you can fit 699 on it?
Absolutely. I'll have 3 of those. A good name for the movie. Yeah, The Muppet Strike Back. Absolutely awesome. And yes, as Gavin said, he'll buy that for $1. Very, very groovy. All right. Well, guess what, fans? The biggest thing that's happening today, even as we speak, like right now, there are things happening in the world. And of course, the biggest thing that's happening is Alien Romulus has come out. Wackadoo, Mr. Aaron. Premiering in the cinemas today. How good and exciting is this?
I know, and we're not true fans, are we? Because we're seeing it tomorrow.
Yes, well, that's right. So I'm curious to see if anybody has seen it today already and what they thought of it. I mean, I'm sure if someone says, spoiler alert, there's an alien on the ship and it kills all these people. Oh my God, you've ruined it for me. I'm just curious to see if anybody has jumped the gun and gone and checked it out today.
Spoiler alert, it comes out of Grogu.
Oh, a little alien coming out of Grogu's chest. Oh, that'd be an awesome promo. Absolutely love that.
I do think what I've said before, I'm really interested in seeing this because I do like the way they've gone with the merchandising and the look. The Alien universe has always been green and cool blues, and this one is red. So I know that's a really weird thing, but for me, it looks new and updated, and the trailers have been good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
I like this one for Michael at Sci-Fi Zone movie night. Yeah, you want to see. The problem is the Sci-Fi Zone only shows horror movies. So if you come into the store and it's just Aaron and I there, that's going to give you nightmares. What can I say? So
the other thing, Michael, we organised a night once and only Christy turned up. We're our number one fan.
That's exactly right. I like this one from PJ. Oh, no, not again. That's exactly from Spaceballs. And Chris is on the ball. Good to see Uncle Darth with us. Grow profits the movie. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. But it is meant to, the Mandalorian and Grogu thing, wrap up the entire Filoni-verse, as they say. So we'll have to cross the bridge.
I know what it is. The power of one, the power of two, the power of Grogu.
Yeah, exactly right. Fantastic. Karan said, I once saw an alien when I looked into the mirror. Did you ever notice that mirrors steam up when you kiss them? So I'm just going to leave it at that. Aaron certainly figured that one out very early. So.
No. I never kissed the mirror. I made like a little pair of lips and I put my thumb through as the tongue. And that was much.
Where are you going with that? Anyway, speaking of the Alien Romulus promo, I saw this photo during the week. I don't know where this happens to be, right? But how good is that for a cinema promo, dude? That is awesome, isn't it?
Didn't you see? That was actually on top of Aaron's collectibles.
Oh, you've done an image of yourself. Now, wouldn't it be funny if they hadn't have installed it properly and these jaw things actually fell out, right? And some dude, like down the picture, you got this dude down the bottom there. These jaws come out and land straight on top of that dude. Wouldn't that make for the greatest Instagram photo of all time? What do you reckon?
I think if they're really smart, they'd hire the shop across the road to put a huge predator head on top, and then you could have aliens versus predator.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then, of course, you put the 3 laser lights on the alien's head, and I reckon that is. But that's cool. And of course, there's going to be all these people, not mentioning Spankin's name, saying, Where's that going to go when the movie's finished? Who's going to keep that and put that in their collection, hang it from the top of their house or something?
Forget about that. It'll get to 2:00 one morning and 3 drunk guys will be up there prying it off to take home to their collection. The police will come round and go, "The alien head on the top of your house, where did you get it?" They're like, "Oh, we found it. Someone left it on the top of a cinema downtown."
Yes, it fell off the back of a cinema. Exactly right. Death by movie prop. Love it. And I do like this one. Yeah, it's putting the bite on the fans. But imagine that. Wouldn't that be the ultimate story to say, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today at the cinema. I'm out the side of the cinema and the alien jaws landed right on top of me. It's like, mate, that's just like an omen. That's just spectacular. Love it.
Well,
So.
a quick little story. Someone I know used to go to telephone, and you could jemmy them open and pull the things out. So I got a couple that way back in my youth. But once it was for Revenge of the Sith. The walkway bridges they have across highways? There was these big vinyl banners that go all the way across, and they were hooked up there with steel cables. And some of my customers said they went there at like 3 a.m. and bolt cutted the steel cables, and it fell on the highway, and they went and rolled it up. But they didn't realize it was so big when they rolled it up, it wouldn't fit in the car because it is that much vinyl banner. And they had to go home and get ocky straps and put it on the top of the car to get it home.
Were they docky ockies? So for those who don't get that joke, because there are a few people watching us for the first time in one of the last episodes of good old Docky Who, Sutek was actually held down to the TARDIS with an ocky strap. Docky ockies, we call them. So you heard it here first.
The strong ones.
I was going to say, when you cut the banner down from the freeway overpass, as it's falling to the ground, a truck goes through underneath and just gets hooked around the windscreen of the truck and is just driving down the highway. Yes, exactly right. Better get a bigger car. Absolutely fantastic. So this also came out today. So for whatever reason, Alien Romulus is a bit of a big deal, right? So you got this big ass thing on the top of the cinema. Believe it or not, these are the popcorn buckets. Now, normally when you go to the cinema and you buy popcorn, they chuck in the bucket for nothing. These puppies are $34 each. What's the deal with that, Mr. Aaron?
When I go to the cinema and buy popcorn, usually all the critters are in the popcorn for free. But this time you actually have to pay for them. It is one of the cinema chains in America. I'm actually disappointed they're not coming out here. They're light up popcorn buckets for $35, which means it's basically the price of a large popcorn.
That's just nuts. I mean, it looks awesome, but it's just like, where are we going with this? And I am intrigued. I mean, clearly they're going to manufacture these things, and there's a bit of effort put into them. You do wonder if they don't sell them all, or the movie just gets bad reviews and they just get all chucked out. It's like, what's the deal? I mean, how far is this going? Because recently we saw, like with June, they did the Sandworm, and I think some other movie they had some other thing as well. And this is like the fact that it lights up and everything. It's like, where's this direction going? Is there now a new industry for friggin' popcorn buckets? What's the deal, dude?
Well, the popcorn buckets and the drinks containers, they've done collectible ones for years and years, but the last couple of years, I think it started with the R2-D2 ones that sort of opened up and they've really tried to go on the collectible market. I think they are aiming at collectors because they're getting the things that people will want to keep.
At least it looks good. So Uncle Darth said, he was only in the US, he thinks. I like this one from Christy, right? It's $34 plus the popcorn, plus the cost of popcorn, $150 then. Oh, you're going to the cinemas these days. Yeah, unbelievable. So
$150. That would be like taking a beanbag full of popcorn, and I think I could complete that by the end of the movie.
Mark's on the right track. It'll be in the eBay for 5 times the price. If it is available only in the US, they'll buy a dozen of the damn things, put them on eBay, jack the price up, and of course people in Australia and wherever else are going to have, mate, we've got no choice. But if they look crap, fine. But they don't look crap. They look really, really good.
Another terrible story. Someone came into the shop once with the R2-D2 one and said, "Oh, this is the special R2-D2 popcorn bucket. I got one without popcorn and it's still in the original bag and everything. It cost me $49. How much would you give me for it?" I said, "I really don't want it, $2. And they sold it to me.
And what did you do with it? You said, "I'm going to do a C3PO and just add a few extra zeros at the back of it," or what?
Yeah, I think I put it back to $49 and it sold.
You are a dog, a capitalist dog, mate. What can I say? Unbelievable. So Uncle Darthy wanted to see the Deadpool popcorn buckets come to Australia, and clearly they didn't.
Yeah, they were.
Murray's joined us for the first time. The Blue Beetle popcorn bucket. It's a bit of a thing, and I reckon years from now, someone's going to say I'm a big popcorn bucket collector, and have gone from just normal cups to these big extravagant things. Is like, mate, what the hell is the deal with that? So, which is a
Hmm.
very, very cool. Well, anyway, that's
Do you know
what's
what
going
I've
on with
heard?
that. What?
Do
Go
you
on.
know what I've heard they're going to do for the Barbarella popcorn bucket? Sydney
What?
Sweetie sits in the seat next to you and feeds you popcorn one at a time.
I want a peeled popcorn if you don't mind, umpire. You're a shock. I was just say, what's that bucket going to look like? I was like, yeah, I reckon that could be interesting. So, anyway, so that's what's going on with Alien Romulus. We'll check it out tomorrow ourselves and see what it's all about. Once again, an alien on a ship killing dudes. Oh, where have I seen that theory, that concept before? But in the meantime, there's things happening with events and dudes turning up to events. And the first thing we're going to kick it off with is a bit of the old Docky Who, Mr. Aaron.
There is a bit of Doctor Who stuff happening at the moment. Our friends at the Sirens of Audio podcast have brought different Doctor Who actors out. And leading up to the end of the year, there's a few coming at different events. Fraser Hines is going to be in Melbourne over the weekend of September the 15th, and Katie Manning is going to be just in Tasmania. She was locally a couple of months ago, or at the beginning of the year, actually. So for any Doctor Who fans who want to meet some of the celebrities, that's a couple of events that are coming up. But the next one, I think, is particularly interesting because it's actually a Docky at a Doctor Who event. And much like Kiss and much like... I guess, John Farnham, this is Sylvester McCoy's farewell tour, which probably means that he'll come back about 6 more times. But Sylvester McCoy, who is the 7th Doctor and was also Radagast the Brown in the Hobbit movies, has said he can't travel as much now. He's coming to Australia for one last time in November. And he's also in Melbourne with Janet Fielding, who was Tegan. So this is a mega docky event that's happening locally in November. So anyone who is a Doctor Who fan, and let's face it, half the people who watch this show are, we've got a good end to the year with a couple of Doctor Who events. You'll be there, Dags, won't you?
Absolutely. I'll be doing my hair that day. What can I say? I like fans who got genuine dockies going to a docky gig. Will there be a Specky Eddie of the Docky Who? Absolutely. Go, mate. I just want someone to walk up to Sylvester and say, you're my most favourite docky of all time. Oh, jeez Louise. Yes, yes, he was in The Hobbit. You mentioned his character's name. I do remember seeing him, but yes,
Radagast the Brown. He was the guy riding the sleds pulled by rabbits.
Oh, yeah, as one does. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, so if you're there, your dockies, go off and see that dude. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you wouldn't believe what's going on in 2 days' time. So Star Walking Inc., the Star Wars with Appreciation Society of Australia, is running one of their Skyforce meetings, their social club meetings, and we've got an actual genuine dude turning up who's one of the coolest cats you'll ever see floating around the biz. Right. Not only did this dude work on, this is Don Bees we're talking about. He's in Australia at the moment. He's popping over to Skyforce. Not only did he work on the prequel trilogy in the R2D2 and the C3PO unit, but he's also a genuine Boba Fett. How good is that? So he was the Boba Fett from the Return of the Jedi Special Edition, or the Specky Eddies, as we like to call them. And as you can see there in the bottom picture, he actually wore the Jango Fett outfit for a period of time. So he was actually his own dad. How good is that? So Don is actually turning up to Skyforce on Saturday. As I said, he's in town. We've shanghaied the guy. We're bringing him along. He's got some fantastic stories, got awesome pictures of his time working for Lucasfilm. And I tell you what, he's one of those dudes. Once you get him talking, he's just got a plethora of all these tales he can tell about his time in Star Wars. And on top of all that, believe it or not, he owns a DeLorean. So there you go. It doesn't actually drive, but he actually does still own one. What do you reckon about that, Mr. Dude?
It's fantastic. And it looks like you've got Dr. Phil coming to the meeting as well. But what I think is fantastic is he's been in he's done a lot of stuff Star Wars and fan related, but he did special effects on The Fly and The Fly 2. And that's one of the things I'd ask about, because that would probably be something you don't hear much about. So it would be a really amazing event to go to, and I would love to go, but I will be working in the shop.
Well, someone's got to take one for the team. So, yes, he's actually worked for Lucasfilm for quite a long time. He doesn't work for them currently, but when he was there, he was right in the middle when everything was exciting was happening from a filmmaking perspective. And to prove how cool he really is, right? Just to prove that he's not some random puppy. Look at this. This is a picture of him with George Lucas. Now, this is not a photo bomb, by the way. It's not like someone's getting a picture of George and Don just slipped on in. So this is a genuine picky with the real dude. So thank the maker. How good is that, Mr. Aaron?
The thing I like what you said just then was doesn't work for them currently. Do you know what that means? All the juicy stories can come out.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So anyway, so if people are wondering, I put the address up a moment ago. It's at the Docklands. You can check it out on the website if you didn't get a chance. Where was it? Where are you? Yarra's Edge Community Centre, a space. It's 100 Lorimer Street in the Docklands, which is heading towards Fisherman's Bend. Kickoff time is 12:30. Be sure you check it out. Check out a genuine Star Wars dude. What do you reckon about that, Mr. Aaron?
You know, Star Wars dudes coming out, Docky Who dudes coming out. You'd hate to be a Star Trek fan at the moment, wouldn't you?
Oh, I tell you what, there are no Star Trek fans at all. But guess what? We're not here to talk about that other Star franchise. We're going to have a bit of a quick chat about the Star Wars franchise. This one, I reckon, is really, really interesting. So for those who are interested, right, the sequel trilogy, right? Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, like made $1 billion in the box office and whatever else. And, you know, it's sort of, they've come and gone. But they didn't exactly ingratiate themselves with a lot of the fans and the fan base. Funnily enough, it's almost like the history of the prequel trilogy all over again. So a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people do like them. And who knows, 20 years from now, they'll probably be highly regarded. But as of right now, there's a bit of an anti-sequel trilogy sentiment going on. Well, as it turned out, someone has figured out a way to say, well, and this is a Lucasfilm thing, not just some fan thing, to say, is there a way of getting rid of the sequel trilogy from the entire timeline canon of Star Wars, right? So how could you do that? How could that even be possible? Now, this has been done as a parody, but there's a game or a TV show or whatever it is coming out called Rebuild the Galaxy. Excuse me. It's a Lego thing. Okay, now the thing about the Lego thing, the trailer for this is out. It looks good. It looks like a lot of fun. You can really get into it. You know, Lego-related stuff is always very, very groovy. PJ, who's watching now, is a bit of a Lego puppy, so he'll know all about this. And it got all these really cool characters, and, you know, this Greeble dude, and this is happening, and that's happening, and this is all very, very exciting. It's all Lego, blah, 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 blah. You've even got the Darth Jar Jar thing making an appearance. Make of that what you will. But the reason why this it won't be, but it could be a bit of a big deal, is because they change the timeline of everything that occurs in the movies. And that happens because of a thing called the cornerstone. It's introduced into this game. Now, the game or the show is not canon. But if it was, this could impact everything, because the cornerstone in this particular show that this dude finds has the ability to change the timelines. It's a bit like a multiverse scenario. So in other words, you could say that everything that occurred in the sequel trilogy didn't happen. Okay, and that allows, let's assume for the moment that Lucasfilm or somebody wanted to make a whole new bunch of sequel trilogy movies, to do that because suddenly the timeline has been changed, as we've seen in other movies and TV shows where it's actually a common occurrence. Not saying it will happen, but if this thing got introduced into live action, it could happen. Now, first things first, what do you reckon, dude?
I reckon it's already happened. I reckon that dude with the cornerstone is sitting in the corner of the cantina, pushes the button, Hans shoots first, pushes the button, Greedo shoots first, pushes the button, Greedo shoots and says McClunky. I think it's fun to do that kind of thing in a Lego spin-off. I did hear fans really getting their, I guess, bent out of shape, and actually suggesting for real that they do something to change the universe and erase the prequels. I don't think that'll ever happen.
No. I agree with you. I don't think it will happen. But as someone pointed out, if they wanted to, they could. Now, they've introduced this cornerstone thing in this game, which is not canon. But if someone said, let's stick it in canon, and someone said, okay, maybe the sequel trilogy has really irked a lot of people. Can we find a way to erase it and then create a brand new timeline? And it's all canon, then it's all legitimate. And you say, well, actually, now that there's two, as was mentioned, like multiverses or whatever, I mean, I don't think they would do it, but the opportunity is there if they want to do it. Now, of course, in this game thing, it's actually quite funny because the timeline completely changes. And as you saw, you had AT-AT walkers from the Rebel Alliance, and Darth Jar Jar is a bit of a thing now. And I think there are Ewok bounty hunters. It's all a bit of a lark. It's a bit of a gag, right? Yeah. But you do wonder, it's like, well, you know, imagine if it's just theoretically, right? So let's assume, 2024, 2 years from now, Disney sells Star Wars, they won't, but imagine they do, or some other president comes in, they go, you know what, the Sequel Trilogy really gave us the shits. Let's find a way to, one, get rid of it, and then create a whole new bunch of movies, because they're going to make billions of dollars. The downside, of course, is you can't bring the original actors back in because of what's happened in recent years. But it's almost like a win-win. You get rid of something that some people don't like, you recreate them using a different story, and they make all this money all over again. Mate, what could possibly go wrong? What do you reckon?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if you remember some of my favorite comics ever. It's going back 20 years now. They were called Star Wars Infinities, and they retold Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. If something fundamentally different happened, Leia was changed as a Dark Apprentice. There was a white version of Darth Vader in that's actually been made as an action figure. So imagine if that became cinematic universe, Chris Brennan would have to go and paint his Darth Vader costume white, and then they change it back again, and out comes the paint stripper, and it's back to black again.
So Jeff is on the right, but it's the Star Wars version of the Kelvin universe for Star Trek. It's effectively the same thing, and it has good ideas and bad ideas around it. And because of the way the Sequel Trilogy is structured, you could almost, if you introduce this cornerstone thing, say 2 months in the timeline before The Force Awakens, you can redo everything. So that way you don't have to impact The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all those shows that take place after Return of the Jedi. And yeah, if you remade the movies all over again based on some storylines that clearly may work for some people and may not work for others, all you do is just all that money comes back again. So I don't be like episode 7.1 or something like 8.1. I don't know, or 8.2. So what do you reckon? Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, look, do you know what? We joke about it. If someone really wanted to be a new showrunner and take over and push it in a new direction, and they pitched it to Disney, you never know what could happen. I mean, it's science fiction. The one thing I guess I do like about Star Wars is they haven't done time travel. They haven't done we're going to go and change things and mess stuff up. I actually think they've missed the boat on multiverse. You've got I guess the Marvel universe. Deadpool is sort of putting the end to the multiverse. It's done so well and so outrageously. You can't really do much more multiverse. I think people would start getting sick of it. And, for every person who hates a movie, it's someone's favorite movie as well. So why would you want to erase it and, ruin it for them? You know how many people had a cry when they got rid of the legacy stuff? That would be the same. There'd be another group of people that'd have a cry if they got rid of the Disney stuff. So,
and in the long-term implications would be like, well, which one do you watch? It's like, it's like an expanded universe, but in film form, it'd just do your head in. And of course, and nothing would be worse than if they said it will remake the Sequel Trilogy and they turn out to be rubbish. And it's like, oh my God, what's the deal with that? There was a couple of comments here, as Uncle Dar said about they can use AI to bring anyone back. I'm not sure if they would do it, but they certainly could do it. So, it is interesting. Karan's made a mention about fan movies on YouTube getting some tracking that changes the timeline. That's a fan's interpretation. Don't forget the expanded universe effectively is now all fan based if you're looking at it from that perspective. It is interesting. And someone made a point: have they done traveling in time before, or at least mucked around with it? Chris is right. In Rebels, they did when you go to the world between worlds, which is what you see in Ahsoka. And I thought, was it Ahsoka? It was Ahsoka. When Ahsoka runs into Anakin in the world between worlds, there was a theory then that when she popped back out again, the whole timeline was completely different. So they didn't do it, but they could have done it. So, yeah,
I heard a theory she was gonna pop out and be in the Avengers universe.
Well, one possibly could. You never know. Anyway, so that's that. As I said, that probably won't happen. Have a look at the trailer. It's actually quite fun. And so if you like that sort of thing, if you're into children's games. Is it a game or a TV show? I haven't got my wires crossed. I think it's a game, isn't it?
It's Lego, man.
No, that's all you need to know. Exactly right. Some assembly are required. Will they do it? And Russell's right. There's no reason why in the future they won't reboot Star Wars like Star Trek has with Strange New Worlds. You're exactly right. In the distant future, decades from now, 20 years from now, Star Wars could be a completely different animal. And you do wonder how that will go. Anyway, so that's that. Check out the trailer if you get a chance and have a look and see what you think. Now, guess what, fans? There are a lot of people watching who don't watch us very often. So for that reason, you're going to find this very, very intriguing because guess what? It's now time for this.
A question.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask my lad a question, and then he has not seen it and doesn't know anything about it, completely out of the blue. And of course, people watching this are entitled to put their thoughts and views forward. You want to say something before we go? You look like you're trying to jump in.
No, I was
You're
just thinking.
Okay, is that how you think? Exactly right. Very, very good. All right, so this is the question I'm going to ask you, old son. Once I put the thing up. So, can a new film impress an audience by showing them something unique, or are there no new ideas left? And where I'm coming from this angle is that using 1950 sci-fi movies like War of the Worlds, Aliens from Mars, and blah 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 blah. Is there anything left that can be done that people say I've never seen that before, or are all the ideas gone? Is that it? Everything that comes out now, well, this is science fiction related. Can people say, "Oh, I've seen that before in another movie or another TV show"? It's like there's nothing left that's new and unique. What do you reckon?
No, I there is stuff that's new and unique, new and unique, and I do see movies still that go, "Wow, I have never seen that before." And I can give you two examples that have come out in the last couple of years. The first one is the first Doctor Strange movie, where at the end of the movie they have a fight where the city is collapsing, time is running backwards, and they are having a fight forwards while time is going backwards. And I'm like, I have never seen that done in a movie before, and that's pretty incredible.
Didn't they do that in
Inception?
Tenet? No, in Tenet.
No, in Tenet, time run backwards in a different way. They did kind of do that, but it was more of a comic book action way they did it. And I did think getting my head around storyboarding that, coordinating, like filming the plates of stuff going backwards and then dropping actors going forward into it. I really appreciated that and thought I'd never seen that before. And also, and you can say this goes back to Fantastic Journey, when they did Ant-Man and they did the shrinking and the blowing up, it's more the special effects. When they did Ant-Man becomes Giant Man in Civil War, and he's walking through the airport and ripping wings off planes and using them to fight, I was like, that's been done in sort of, the Japanese monster movies, but I've never seen it done photorealistic like this before. So it is often technology that pushes, I guess, the boundaries of what we see visually. The opposite scale on that, when they went micro in that, I mean, they did Honey, I've Shrunk the Kids, but they did stuff in Ant-Man. I'm like, I have never seen this done before in any movie. So it does still happen.
Okay, I'm just going to respond to that. But first things first, Uncle Darth Chris has said so many new ideas that never see the light of day because Hollywood just rehashes old ideas again and again. And sometimes they're a little bit limited to what they can do. As we've mentioned before, Asian movies can sometimes do things that Hollywood say, well, you can't have that. You can't have kids turning into zombies and people killing children and all sort of business. Not that that's a good thing, but if it's good for the narrative, then they can do that in other countries, but Hollywood would go, no, we're not going to go down that path. Russell said it's not impossible, but it's a lot harder these days. I like this one. In books, it's been done, as Evolve wrote about it a few times, because the idea is that there was a time in all cinema where something appeared and you go, that's the first time we've ever seen that. That is really cool. That is really exciting. Now, granted, what you said, from a visual effects perspective, things get amped up and they look better, right? There's no denying that. Now, visual effects that are clearly digital or models look photorealistic, and you can't tell them between that and real life. I get that. But the moment you said, you got the Ant-Man running around in Civil War, and you go, well, hang on, you got the amazing colossal man, you got the attack of the 50-foot woman, a large person running through a normal environment, well, that's kind of been covered off. And as you said, once they shrink them down, okay, it was seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Incredible Shrinking Man, and so on. So, but I agree, from a visual effects side, you say, well, that's spectacular. But by the same time, you go, yeah, I've sort of seen those before in the examples I've just mentioned. I'm trying to think of something. Now, you mentioned, what were you talking about? Multitude of Madness. Was it Multiverse of Madness?
Multiverse. No, it was the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah, because they took the idea, it looks like from Inception, where they bend all the cities around. And that's something I'd never seen before. Now, I've got to tick for Inception to go, when the city curves in on itself, you go, fucking, that's awesome. Right, that was cool. And, of course, Multiverse of Madness, they really ramped it up. And so I guess I agree with you. There are examples where you do say that is just spectacular, but it doesn't happen very often, dude. Most things you can go, I've seen that in other shows before.
Avatar would be one. I mean, it's going back 20 years now, but the first Avatar, totally different. There is some technology like the power loaders and stuff like that, but I do think creating an entire planet, a totally different ecosystem, and the whole look and the expense and photorealistic, that was at the time pretty mind-blowing. And I mean, I was surprised. That's a science fiction movie that became the #1 movie of all time. And it wasn't like a Star Wars, it was more of a science fiction movie. I guess it had the action in for the normal fans who just like an action movie. But I do see, I do see stuff where once in a while I go, wow, that's another one. It wasn't the movie everyone loved. The more recent Blade Runner movie where they go to the remains of Las Vegas and there's a hologram show going on while there's other things and fighting going on as well. I did, from a cinematic point of view, I go, wow, I've never seen this in another movie before. So once in a while it does happen.
PJ said Hollywood just likes to play it safe. That is true. There are some things that some lines that they won't cross, and I totally get that. Chris has they could make a series out of the Amtrak Wars, which would be amazing. I've never sort of read it, so I don't really know. There was, hang on. Jeffro said Dark City when it came out. Yeah, that was different from a narrative perspective. The whole city is always in perpetual darkness because it's been run by aliens and it's not set on Earth. Yeah, I would say that's actually a little bit different, a little bit cool. Although a show set in entire darkness, I mean, as you mentioned, Blade Runner, you could sort of relate the two that way. But from a narrative point of view, definitely. Guy said Inner Space. No, because Inner Space was a remake of Fantastic Voyage from the 60s.
Matrix. Yeah. The original Matrix, when that came out, that was pretty mind-blowing.
The bullet time stuff. That was just like, that is freaking awesome. And that was definitely a tick in the box for it. Never seen this before in a movie. I mean, that's a very good example, actually. And now when you see anything like bullet time, you go, yeah, you're just copying Matrix. So that is actually very, very cool. So, yeah.
I do remember when Michael Jackson's film clip Black and White came out and they had the faces morphing from face to face. That at the time was like, wow. And that's in a movie clip. I mean, the Terminator, it is all driven by technology, the liquid metal T-1000 and the water tentacle from the Abyss.
Yeah, and as I said, that's all happened in the past. So if somebody said, let's make a movie today where we have we got a robot that can change sort of shape, like what do you call it, morphing and whatever. Yeah, we've seen that a dozen times. So it's getting harder to do something that people go, I've never seen that before. Like, for example, when Iron Man came out in 2008 or 09, I mean, that was spectacular. It's like he's flying around, he's blowing shit up. It's awesome. 23-something friggin' Marvel movies later, mate, when they're blowing up a city, you just sit there going, oh, friggin' hell, can you pass me some popcorn from an alien Romulus bucket? It's just like, it's been done too many times and it's lost its originality. So how many cities can you blow up before you say enough is enough? So that's what I say, that every movie or TV show, someone has to be first. Some people build on it. Then it gets to a point you go, all right, now we're a bit over it. And that's what I think is, I'm just curious to see whether that can be rectified now.
We looked at it a couple of weeks back. Have you seen the full trailer now of Megaropolis?
Only the one that I showed here a few weeks ago. Is there another one?
No, there is another. I looked at that and go, "Oh, this is going to be a very different movie." It looks spectacular. It almost looks like ancient Rome decadence mixed with Blade Runner. And I looked at that and go, do you know what? This is going to be a really interesting movie to see. So maybe even that could be something that blows people's minds.
Assuming it gets a release. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, Francis Ford Coppola invested his entire life making a film called Megalopolis. It's been screened at Cannes Film Festival in France about 3 months ago, but no one's picked it up to distribute it. I think they're all scratching their brains going, what do we think? What do we class this as? And it is a sci-fi movie with a bit of time freezing involved. So yeah, go figure that.
So we have Megalopolis, the Mandalorian and Grogu. What's the better name? Neither of them roll off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly right. Chris has asked, what was the movie where the people wore a life clock on their arm? Oh, I got no idea. Does anybody know that? Oh,
that was
no, I don't know.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just the funny thing. So, yeah, and this is why I brought this up is because we're saying Alien and Romulus came out today, as we mentioned earlier, right? It's aliens on a ship killing dudes, and of course, mate, that's been done multiple times in the prequels and the previous movies for Alien. And as I said to Aaron, you do wonder, what can this movie do that all the other Alien movies have not done? And that's a big ask. You know, I don't mean just the camera angles and like fancy footage and how the facehuggers are running around the deck and shit. I mean, something you go, oh, I did not see that coming. That is really left field. That is an awesome concept. I don't know. I'll be intrigued to see if that's the case or not. So
it can go the other way though, where you have groundbreaking movie like Jaws that, you know, at the time was a blockbuster, and you have like a movie like Twister, the original one when it came out had special effects of tornadoes I've never seen before. You add them together for Sharknado and it's a crap movie.
Yeah, exactly. How long did it take him to write this? Mega Grogu Opalop.
That sounds
face
like
hugger bullet time. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, go on.
Just imagine if they did a deal like that at McDonald's. I'd like the Mega Grogu Oculus McDonald's deal, please.
Yeah, it's 2 beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on sesame seed bun. I could only say that after the promotion finished. Angela's on the ball. The aliens come out and have tea with the crew. That is awesome. Actually, wouldn't that be funny? So that's what you do differently. The aliens come out, the xenomorphs, and it's actually the humans who are sticking their faces on the aliens and sucking out the bits and pieces and bursting through the aliens' chests. That'd be different. Wouldn't work.
Yeah,
but, you know.
the aliens come out and they talk like the brain gremlin from Gremlins 2, Tony Randall.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So very, very good. It comes with extra frogs. Yes, we definitely need one of those. So I do think that as we become a bit more jaded now with a lot of movies and TV shows, and you sort of think, that's just impressed me. I'm like, this has the wow factor. That's kind of getting harder and harder to achieve. Visual effects wise, yeah, they are getting better, but even they're going to get to a point and go, you know, it's all been done before. It's going to be very difficult to see something new. I mean, you mentioned Avatar. And of course, if anybody saw Valerian, the City of a Thousand Worlds, the stuff filmed that was set on that planet, which was like, you know, Hawaii. I mean, that looks absolutely beautiful and stunning. But you can say, well, I've seen cool looking stuff in Avatar as well. So anyway,
that's quite a good one, because there was a scene in that. I didn't love the movie, but there was the scene where the bazaar, the alien bazaar, was set in another dimension. Yeah. So they're running, and I'm like, cool. Again, I've never seen this in a movie before. So there are ideas that get through once in a while.
Yeah, that is very, very true. So it's almost like the VR thing. You're with the VR, you're walking around, like from your perspective, you've got all these corridors and stuff, but in real life, there's nothing there. Christy said, we're just going to wrap this up. Movie that has aliens landing. We think they are aggressive, but they want to be us. God, who would want to be us at the moment? Unbelievable. Anyway, so we'll have to wait and see where that goes, and we'll have to go and check that out. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron? Alien Romulus. What are the chances?
I think that movie was called Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, exactly right. Casper, the friendly alien. Very good. All right, so we're going to move on to the last topic for the night. And this one's actually a bit of a personal one. There's a bit of a funny one about this. So we're talking about Sci-Fi Fandom, and that's all of us, the collective sci-fi fans in the universe, and that's a picture of Uncle Darth there with some young girl, and the media. And where this has come from, where I got the idea from this, is that 2 days ago, believe it or not, the guy who created the Doctor Who Club of Australia, which was the first Doctor Who club, devoted Doctor Who club in this country, and this was back in the 1970s, he was in a newspaper article released in 1984, thereabouts. And it was about whether fan clubs are dying or surviving or whatever else. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in a second. And the thing was, now this is the media back in 1984 talking to a sci-fi guy, right? This is the article. The guy's name is Anthony Howe. Now, it's hard to read, but if you look at the bit in the middle, because they talks about 3 different sets of collectors, right? People in fandom. Anthony, now 27, pale, bespectacled, and bookish. I mean, how insulting is that? Why could they just say Anthony, now 27, and just forget the other stuff? Why do they have to say he's pale, bespectacled, and bookish? So even in the article, they've insulted the guy before they've even discussed what it is that he's done. And that's how the media used to treat fandom. And of course, you've got stories like this, and I've got stories like this. What do you reckon, dude?
I did, even before, if you read the article, I think they take pot shots all the way for Anthony, 27, who lives with his mum and has a garage full of, you know, overloaded with crap, so they can't even fit a car, let alone walk through it, kind of thing. It's a very condescending thing. And I have to say, it might have changed a little recently, because I guess sci-fi nerds and stuff are more acceptable because of the big comic cons and stuff. But there was a 10-year period I just refused to do newspaper articles or radio or TV, because I knew from doing them in the past, I can give a half-hour interview which is 99% serious and 1% some of the crazy stuff that happens, and that 1% is put at the headline, and all the serious stuff that you want to get out there isn't even touched on. And it is very funny. I've talked to people in different fandoms. I'm talking about, I guess, Doctor Who and Star Wars, which are the fandoms I grew up in. But every single fandom has had that thing where the media gently mocks them because they have a passion for a show.
Yeah, this is one that come up. This I'll have to explain what this means. So PJ said Shane 39 never married. That was actually in the Who magazine article talking to Shane Morrissey, the Star Wars guy, and for whatever reason they had to put his marital status in there. I was like, why? It was the never married Shane Morrissey, whatever. It's like, why is that important?
Yeah.
And you are right. Now we had a discussion. A bunch of us got together last night and had a bit of a quick chat about this. And in recent years, especially with the pop culture expos, the media has been a lot more generous to the fan community. The news turns up to do segments at Oz Comic Con and Supernova, and oh my God, these fans, how fantastic are they? The theory is that science fiction fans have now infiltrated, for want of a better term, the TV studios. So the days of where fans would be mocked by editors and TV broadcasters have been put behind, because the people who are now doing these things are fans themselves. And that was actually something I hadn't really thought of before. So going back to you again, you said here there was an article written about you and your brother about collecting Doctor Who, and you said they focused on your brother, and that's the text on the right hand side. But your brother actually doesn't even collect anything.
He collected, but I collected all the stuff for him. He was into Star Wars and I was into Doctor Who, and I was massively collecting Doctor Who. So I'd get stuff for him, and he really didn't have any stories or anything to talk about, but they liked the idea of brothers collecting. But the thing that really annoyed me, they did the interview, and the person who they sent out to do the interview did not know sci-fi at all. And every time we said Star Wars, they would repeat back to us what we'd said and say Star Trek. And about 4 or 5 times we said, no, it's Star Wars, not Star Trek. And then the article came out and he's a Star Trek fan, even though there's a huge pile of Star Wars merchandise and we talk about Star Wars characters. That is going back quite a lot. Like, you might not recognize that was me in that article before I ate me, basically.
Yeah, he looked. Yeah, that was Aaron. He looked like one of the Daleks. So Chris is with us tonight, and now, to be fair, it wasn't all bad. There was some magazine articles that were actually quite fair to fans, and this is one that Chris and Lozzie were in. But as Chris says here, we used to get reporters asking Lozzie, that's Chris's wife, if she dressed up as Leia in the bedroom, and that's all that they were interested in. And you know what? I can kind of get that they would actually ask things like that, because as I discovered when I was doing some stuff regarding the media, you'd speak to a reporter, and I remember doing this back in 1993, and I said to the reporter, fans don't want to talk to people like you because you make us all look bad. You really hang shit on us. And the guy said, it's not me, it's my editors back at the base, right? They're anti-sci-fi, this and that. They'll hang shit on the fans as much as they can because they reckon it's a laugh. And they think most of the readers kind of dial into it. And for that reason, a lot of people used to stay away, as you mentioned, from the media, because they used to just hang it on fans all the time. Now, one story I will recall, and I've mentioned this last night, and this is like, I could not believe this. It was actually at a sci-fi convention in Sydney. It might have been 20, 30 years ago. Whole bunch of people are there. The news people turn up. They're filming all these people, interviewing all these people. It's all great and wonderful. And one guy just happened to say, we're just like normal people. We're not freaks, right? When they put the segment together, sure enough, at the very end of the segment, they got the line, we're not freaks, just looped it again and again and again, showing different people. And I thought, you friggin' dogs. It's like, oh my God. It's like, they obviously, whoever put that together, edited that sequence, must have been laughing their heads off, thinking, oh, how grouse is this? We've got this one line we can use. That's our hook. And I thought, freaking bastards. So I never forgot that. So
I did an interview once, a serious interview about Star Wars when it came back. And they talked about different aspects of fandom. And I talked about the shadow cast, which is when a group of fans perform the movie in front of the screen, which used to happen at the Valhalla Cinema sometimes. And I talked about going to that and how half the audience was reciting most of the movie, which you can do, and it's appropriate to do it there. And they asked me how many times I'd seen Star Wars, and I was like, oh, it must be 40 or 50 times at the time. And so I gave this really amazing interview on Fandom and like Melbourne and growing up a fan and stuff. And the article came out with the headline, Mega Nerd sees Star Wars over 50 times. And then they talked about how whenever I went to see Star Wars at the cinema, I recited the movie while it was on, annoying all the people around me. And there was actually hate mail in the next day's paper talking about, I hate it when someone talks in the cinema, so it would be super annoying with you in there talking. They didn't say it was a special event. That's why I end up saying, no, I don't do articles or TV or anything like that anymore, because they can be pretty vicious.
Yes, they can. Christy said they say that to disparage anyone who doesn't fit the mold. I mean, to be fair, sci-fi fans of all persuasions had a stigma associated with them for many, many decades back in the day. So, as I said, that's all changed now. In the past 20 years, it's completely different. I mean, as you've said, there were people who used to hate or dislike Doctor Who who are now coming into your shop because their kids are really into it and they've just had to accept it by default. And suddenly Doctor Who's now a cool thing for them. So, I reckon that's really, really cool. So one of the things I did want to show, and I remember this vividly, I was here for that, right? So there was a Star Wars thing going on. They got us all together. We had to take days off work because these things are always in the middle of the week to get some photographs for a newspaper article for The Age, right? We're all taking the pictures in the park. It's all great. It's all wonderful. When we're finished, okay, we're all walking back to the cars and the photographer sees a dude on a park bench and he says to Shane, who's actually in charge of the Star Wars Club at this point, let's go and have a chat to this guy. And this is the picture they put in The Age, right? Now, Shane, who's in the middle, did not want to take this photo. He was really unhappy. You can tell from his expression. And we said, we're all watching this from a distance. And I said, how much you want to bet that this is the picture they use? So they've just picked some random dude sitting on the left-hand side there. They shoved the Star Wars guys in. And this picture was enormous in The Age. And I tell you what, we were pissed. It's like we took a day off work for nothing. And as you can see from Shane's expression, he was not happy with this at all. So there was definitely examples where you go, you know what, the media can work for you, but it can kind of work against you as well. So
I want to hear what Russell has put up. Dags, remember when Channel 7 did a Austrek Xmas meeting? What was that about in the late 80s? Do you remember that one?
Hang on.
Because I could imagine Star Trek being another one.
Oh, yeah. So this was actually an example in the 80s of all things, where it was actually very, very positive. So Austrek, the Star Trek Club, turned 10 years old in 1986. Day by day turned up. It was a really, really hot night. So everybody's just sweating their asses off. And they did a whole segment about Star Trek. And of course, at the time, you're thinking, oh, how's this going to turn out? And when they put it on air, it was fantastic. It was really supportive of the club. They interviewed the president, the secretary at the time, showed all these images, the dancing, all the people having a good time. And they meshed in some of the movie stuff as well. And that was one example. And it was a rare example where sci-fi fandom was painted in a good light. And that was actually really, really good to see. But I tell you what, that didn't happen very often. So now I want you to tell your story. Yeah, go on. What are we going to say?
I can remember one positive one when the X-Files took off. I saw a thing on Channel 10 about how X-Files, like how fandom could be normal because these normal dudes were into the X-Files. That's one of the only ones I remember. It was sort of disparaging to other fans.
Now, because we've got Chris here and he's a collector and all that, I want you to recall it, count the story regarding the Weequay while I've just read a couple of comments.
So I actually got contacted by The Age. This is in the mid-90s about Star Wars collecting and was it an investment and what should you buy? And there was a particular figure that came out at the time. It was Weequay, who is a skiff guard from Jabba's palace, and all of them came out on a card with like a hologram or a picture. And there were some very rare ones that came out with a freeze frame slide, which is just a slide you could put in a slide projector. But the normal ones were going for $16. And if you could find one of the ones with the freeze frame slide at the time, they were going about $450. So I explained the reason why they were going for this and what the figure was. And this is to The Age, which is a respectable paper. And I said, can I have it to proofread before you print it? Because doing other sci-fi stuff, I realized they often say stuff that I don't agree with. And they got everything right, except they said Chewbacca instead of Weequay. And I thought maybe they didn't hear it right and just thought Chewbacca Weequay doesn't really sound the same. But I rang the Age and I said, oh, you've got everything right except the name of the character. And they said to me, no one's going to know what a Weequay is. We just change it to Chewbacca. And I thought, but you're asking for like my expert opinion on what to get as an investment. And there'll be all these people go out and buy Chewbacca. And there's a pile of those ones. So even when you try and do the right thing and fact check it, you still get some editor who goes, oh, I don't like that. I don't know what a Weequay is. That's not going to sell papers.
Yeah, so when Aaron was telling me that story just before we broadcast, I knew straight away why they changed it, because they would have said, what the freaking hell's a week? How do you even pronounce that? So regarding modern day events, Christy said the media show up at the big events these days mostly to concentrate on the more scantily dressed girls. I would say yes and no to that. But we watch the news and they'll do a cut over to Oz Comic Con or Supernova. And sometimes they will, but not always. I think the people who create these things are aware that they've got to show some balance. Otherwise, they will get criticised accordingly. But it is interesting to see how things have changed so much. Nobody now will hang shit on pop culture because it's everywhere, right? It's permeated the universe. And people who, as I said earlier, who would hang shit on other people who used to be pop culture fans are now embracing it because it's the in thing. So, and there was an interesting comment here from Russell. Truth be told, negative fan image wasn't around when he first became an active fan. And the 1975 Worldcon got some positive press coverage, but they started doing fan dag stuff in the early 80s. So that would make a lot of sense, because when literature fandom was in existence for like 70 years or whatever else, that would have just like been operating underneath the covers, just quietly going about its business. When you got media fandom coming into play, which is all the movies and TV shows, it's a lot more in your face because people are wearing the costumes, they're getting out and about, they're like flying the flag loud and proud, as it were. And that's something that the media would have gravitated onto. And as we've seen before, the media would look around the room to say, well, who's the dorkiest looking dude we've got here? And we'll just focus on them and do something with them. So, and that's how it was at the time. But a lot of people did get caught out saying, oh my God, I'm being interviewed by the newspapers or the TVs here. How good is this? And they make you look like a complete tool. I mean, we mentioned Shane Morrissey earlier on. There was a classic article with him. I think it's the same one where it gets mentioned about his marital status. And they took a photograph of him holding like an R2-D2, but they used the fisheye lens. So his entire face is completely distorted. It's like, it's an artistic thing, but it's like, dude, you look like a freaking dickhead. It's like, what's the deal with that? So, and of course, he didn't even know. He just said, it's just down there, click, and it would have been a great photo, but they put a fisheye lens on it. It's like, what was that for? That is clearly not to make the guy look better or to support Star Wars fandom. So,
well, the other thing I found interesting from that old article is they were talking about fan club numbers. And Anthony Howell at the time said, there's, 900 or whatever, and most of them are 12-year-old kids. And then they talked about some of the other fandoms, and it was a Mr. Cooper who had done it professionally, and he was the one who came up with the Kiss Army and did... I was going to ask you about this. He said he did a Star Wars fan club, and that would predate a lot of stuff that I've heard about. But he said the Kiss Army was the biggest one he'd ever done, and that was 30,000 members, and they were all between 10 and 17. And fan clubs is no longer for young kids anymore. You might get them going along with parents, or I guess there are some younger kids that might get into gaming and things, but usually it's guys our age that are into fan clubs. So it was interesting reading back then that it was definitely top-loaded with younger kids that did the fan club thing.
Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, that was this dude who did like professional fan clubs. It wasn't Anthony, it was actually somebody else. But you are right. I did see that mention of a Star Wars fan club in the 80s and go, well, they would have gone up against Hamill. So not entirely sure what happened there. But anyway, look, the good news is at least things have changed and the world is a lot more of a happier place than it once was, because there was a time when, you'd see the media and you'd just be almost crapping yourself thinking, what are they going to do to us? I know one event when the media turned up and the guy organising the event said, nah, you just film whatever you want, but don't interrupt anything because we're not going to stop for you because you guys just hang shit on us all the time. And as Russell said, some people really hated Big Bang Theory because of the depiction of fans, but others loved it for the same reason. I loved it because I actually thought a lot of it's true. To a large degree. But anyway, we've gotten through the dark times and the world is much better. Speaking of getting through the dark times, we've actually gotten through the show. So wow. It's actually the end of our hour. Whoa, we've whizzed past that one. For those who don't know already, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials and YouTube and Instagram and blah, 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 blah. And of course, Aaron's store, for those who haven't seen it before or don't know where you got to go, mate, this is where all the happening stuff is happening, Mr. Aaron. What's the deal with this?
It has been a happening week. Who would have thought at the beginning of today that I would get a 7-foot werewolf from Costco and instantly sell it? But that was my day. And then we've had an amazing Lego collection, and it's not the normal Lego you see. I've got one of them here. It's actually...
This will get PJ's juices juicing. Yeah, look at that.
It's actually the old 60s Lego, which is quite hard to find, and it's all mint box. So we've got some really interesting stuff Lego-wise come into the shop.
Yeah.
For the Doctor Who fans, we got about 60 new Doctor Who CDs, which are the narrations of some of the Target books and some of the Big Finish stuff. And then we got a big Ninja Turtle collection coming today. So the shop is rocking at the moment. So come on down if you're into Lego, Turtles, Doctor Who, or any other sci-fi stuff.
Mate, what can I say? It is bursting at the seams. It's a bit like your waistline. Is that right, dude? The buttons.
I'm popping the button. The shop is popping the buttons.
Mate, what can I say? Absolutely fantastic. Well, anyway, guys, that's the end of us. So we're going to go and see Alien and Romulus next week. We might have something special occurring next Thursday for our next episode. Oh, you're going to have to check it out. In the interim, plan your Doctor Who visits for when Sylvester and co turn up. Don't forget to see Don Bees at Skyforce on Saturday. It's going to be absolutely awesome. And if worse comes to worse, you can't attend all those things, just turn up to Aaron's store for a bit of good old-fashioned nerdy chatting. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
Can you please get a picture of his knees so the next show we can have the Bees' knees on?
Indeedy, doody, tidy. There we go. Mate, it's a real buzz about the bees. What can I say? All right, we're going to buzz off. Leave you to... I just said the joke. We're going to buzz off. Leave you to a party. Hard rock on, fans, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye for now.
Have a good night, guys.